which is caused by inhalation of organic as well as inorganic particles, chemicals, fumes, and vapors. Okay. So it can be because of coal dust. Okay. It can be because of silica. These are ferruginous bodies. This is because of silica. This is because of asbestosis. Okay. Can be because of asbestosis, will leads to formation of these ferruginous bodies or asbestos bodies. Okay. Or it can be because of farmers' lung. Okay. So all these factors contribute to pneumoconiosis. So basically in pneumoconiosis, we can have exposure to either mineral dust or it can be organic dust. Okay. Now, mineral dust can be silica, okay, coal dust, asbestos, arsenic, iron dust, tin oxide, beryllium, mica. Okay. And organic dust can be cotton dust, moldy hay. Okay. Now, silica is generally used in mining, sand blasting, and stone cutting. Okay, so it leads to silicosis. Coal dust is a person is exposed during mining. Okay, so it is seen in coal workers and it is known as coal workers pneumoconiosis. Okay, then asbestos is used in mining. It is used in flooring, then roofing products, car components manufacturing. Okay. So it leads to asbestosis. Now, asbestos can also cause mesotheliomas and carcinomas of the lung. Then other agents for mineral dust like arsenic, okay, which is used in pesticide manufacturing, glass and alloy manufacturing, leads to cancer. Iron dust is found in welding and steel workers, and it causes siderosis. Okay. Titanium tin oxide is also used in mining. It causes tanosis. The organic dust can be cotton dust or moldy hay. Cotton dust is used in yarn manufacturing, linen manufacturing. Okay, cotton seed crushing will lead to formation of these cotton dust. So it causes bicyanosis. Then moldy hay, which is seen in farmers or animal attendants, leads to farmers' lung. So basically, there are more than 40 substances which are known to cause pneumoconiosis. And the specific type of pneumoconiosis has been named after the substance which is inhaled. Okay? So out of these, the most important ones are coal workers pneumoconiosis, asbestosis, berylliosis, siderosis, tanosis, and bicyanosis. So basically, pneumoconiosis is a disease of the lung caused by inhalation of organic as well as inorganic particles, chemical fumes, and vapors. Now, pneumoconiosis causes a restrictive type of lung disease. Okay, and pneumoconiosis in Greek means lung, and coniosis means dust. Okay, the term is usually taken to mean either fibrosis of the lung due to accumulation of dust of organic and inorganic origin. So basically, it is a type of a restrictive lung disease. Okay, so there's a reduced expansion of the lung because of fibrosis. There will be reduced expansion of the lung, and the total lung capacity is reduced. So most of these pneumoconiosis or these exposure to mineral dust are because of exposure during occupation. So it is occupational in nature. Okay. So the exact magnitude of occupational disease is not known, especially in lung diseases, of which pneumoconiosis. Okay, because why we don't know the exact magnitude of these occupational lung diseases? Because most of these lung diseases are symptomless. Okay, they are diagnosed very late, and they mimic other lung pathologies. Okay, and moreover, there are lack of government policies for working for these occupational health hazards. So the most important of these pneumoconiosis or important dust exposure are asbestosis, berylliosis, siderosis, tannosis, and byssinosis. Okay, asbestosis is because of exposure to asbestos dust. Coal workers pneumoconiosis is because of exposure to coal dust. Okay, berylliosis is, as the name suggests, is because of exposure to beryllium. Siderosis is iron dust. Tannosis is exposure to tin oxide, and byssinosis is exposure to cotton dust. So pneumoconiosis can be like silicosis, which is pneumoconiosis caused by inhalation of dust composed of free silicon dioxide. It can be silicatosis, pneumoconiosis caused by inhalation of mineral dust, okay, which includes dioxide of silicon and other elements like magnesium, aluminium, iron, and calcium. Okay, so it causes asbestosis, talcosis, calinosis, and cementosis. Then it can be because of inhalation of metal dust like iron, aluminium, barium, and manganese, which is known as metalloconiosis. Okay, so it can cause siderosis if it is inhalation of iron. Okay, aluminosis if it is inhalation of aluminium. Okay, barium will cause barytosis. Okay, then pneumoconiosis can be caused by inhalation of dust composed of carbonaceous dust like anthracite, coal, coke, graphite. Okay, so it is known as carboconiosis. So if it is because of coal dust, it is caused as anthracosis. If it is because of graphite, it causes graphitosis. Then it can be because of pneumoconiosis, which is caused by mixed dust, okay, like anthracosilicosis. So it is because of coal as well as silica dust, okay, or siderosilicosis because of inhalation of iron dust and silica dust, okay. Pneumoconiosis can also be caused by organic dust like byssinosis, okay, because of cotton dust. Okay, it can be also because of dust to corn, which causes corn pneumoconiosis. So we come to coal workers pneumoconiosis. Okay, now coal dust exposure mainly occurs in coal mining. Okay, and 12% of these workers who work in these coal factories or coal mines suffer from pneumoconiosis. Okay, the incidence of pneumoconiosis depends upon the type of the coal and the duration of the work. So what is the pathogenesis? Okay, now coal dust contains amorphous carbon and variable amounts of silica. Okay, now it is this silica which is thought to induce fibrosis. Okay, the other hypothesis is that failure of the normal clearance mechanism to remove the excess dust load, which may be responsible for fibrosis. So either that it is not able to remove the excess dust, so the normal clear, there's a failure of normal clearance to remove the excess dust, or there is coal dust contains amorphous carbon which contains silica. So this silica is responsible for the fibrosis. Now the coal dust induces a spectrum of pathological changes. Okay, it can be asymptomatic anthracosis. It can be simple coal workers pneumoconiosis and progressive massive fibrosis. Now, coal dust is also thought to induce fibrosis through lung injury through reactive oxygen species. So it causes production of reactive oxygen species. Okay, It also causes stimulation of macrophages to produce cytokines and tumor necrosis factor alpha. And coal dust also increases the protease activity. So with all these activity, it induces the fibrosis in the lungs. So morphologically, the first is asymptomatic anthracosis. Now the carbon pigment accumulates in the macrophages and the connective tissue. Okay, and there is the carbon just accumulate, there will be no cellular reaction. So this asymptomatic anthracosis. Then we have simple coal workers pneumoconiosis. So initially there is collection of carbon laden macrophages. Okay, so these collection of macrophages which are laden with carbon are known as macules. Okay, so as the disease progresses, these macules will be surrounded by fibrocollagenous tissues. Okay, so there will be fibrosis around these macules. Now these macules will form nodules. Because of this fibrosis, there will be obliteration of the alveoli. Okay, so some alveoli will get obliterated, and the adjacent alveoli will get dilated, leading to emphysema. So this generally occurs in the upper lobe or the upper part of the lower lobe. Then there can be progressive massive fibrosis. So if the coal workers pneumoconiosis progresses over many years, it progresses to massive fibrosis. There will be large, dense areas of scarring, and there will be carbon pigmentation. So these large, dense areas generally are more than 2 centimeters in size. Okay, and these lesions may coalesce to form large, fibrosed, blackish areas. Okay, and when these coalesce to form these large fibrosed blackish areas, it is known as a black lung disease. So this is coal workers pneumoconiosis. So there will be a dilatation of some alveoli, and some areas there will be fibrosis. Okay, this is a normal lung. This is progressive massive fibrosis, in which there will be large areas of dense scarring, and there will be carbon pigmentation. Okay, and these large areas or blackish areas will coalesce to form large blackish areas, which is known as a black lung. So these are the large blackish areas. This is showing simple coal workers pneumoconiosis. Basically, these are the macules. Okay, so they are basically collection of carbon laden macrophages. So they are a collection of these carbon laden macrophages, which are seen in simple coal workers pneumoconiosis. This is in coal workers pneumoconiosis. They are typically round opacities, okay, of varying sizes in the upper zones of the lung, and these opacities may be round or they may be irregular in outline. Okay, and sometimes they calcify and they can coalesce into form larger masses in progressive massive fibrosis. So how do these patients present? Okay, simple coal workers pneumoconiosis. Anthracosis is asymptomatic. Anthracosis is generally asymptomatic. Okay, the patient does not have any symptoms. Okay, but in simple coal workers pneumoconiosis, the patient can have chronic purulent bronchitis and bronchiolitis. Okay, then with progressive massive fibrosis, because of the fibrosis, the patient can have cor pulmonum. Okay. Then the patient can have shortness of breath, weight loss, fever. Okay, there can be features of heart failure. There can be fine crepitations. Okay, and clubbing of the fingers. Then in complications, it can cause chronic purulent bronchitis, bronchiolitis, cor pulmonis, and Kaplan's syndrome. Okay, now Kaplan's syndrome is described in association with rheumatoid arthritis. Okay, so there are rheumatoid nodules, okay, in the lung. It is associated with coal workers, pneumoconiosis, silicosis, or asbestosis. So the pulmonary regions are nodular. They have central areas of necrosis, and they are surrounded by fibroblasts and macrophages. So basically, Kaplan syndrome is a complicated coal workers pneumoconiosis which occurs along with rheumatoid arthritis nodules. Okay? So the patient, other complications which the patient can have are pulmonary hypertension, right heart hypertrophy. Okay, it predisposes the person to tuberculosis, and because of swallowing of these mineral dust like carbon, it causes inhalation or ingestion of polycyclic hydrocarbons, and it predisposes the person to carcinoma stomach. Okay. So the next, which is important after coal workers pneumoconiosis, is silicosis. Now, silicosis is a type of pneumoconiosis, okay, which is caused by inhalation of silicon dioxide or silica in a crystalline form. Okay. So, what are the various sources of silica? Okay, silica is widely distributed in nature. Okay, it constitutes the bulk of most kind of rocks, clays, and sands. And thus, it has the most common and the most widespread occupational exposure, okay, such as in mining, tunneling, stone quarrying, grinding, and sand blasting. So now this silica is used in this silicosis can be seen in stone cutters, in slate pencil workers, mica mines, okay, lead and zinc mines, in sand grinding, in stone quarries, in stone cutters, okay, because dust is released. In ceramic and pottery industries, okay, gold mines, then glass bangle workers, okay, and it's quartz crushing. So what is the pathogenesis? Okay, once the silica is inhaled, it is engulfed by the alveolar macrophages. Now, silicon hydroxide groups on the surface of the silicon particles form the hydrogen bonds with the membrane proteins and the phospholipids. Okay, so they bind. Once the silica is engulfed by the alveolar macrophages, it binds with the membrane proteins and the phospholipids. This will cause damage to the macrophage cell membrane. It causes degeneration of the membrane proteins. So membrane proteins of the macrophages gets degenerated, and it leads to damage in the cell membrane, and the macrophage gets killed, releasing the free silica particles. This free silica particles is then re-ingested by another macrophage, and the cycle goes on amplifying process. The ingested alveolar macrophages releases mediators like interleukin-1, tumor necrosis factor, fibronectin, oxygen-derived free radicals, and fibrogenic cytokines. Now, all these factors or mediators which are released causes fibrosis. Now, silicosis, there can be 3 stages. It can be an early stage of silicosis. It can be a chronic nodular silicosis, or it can be presence of hilar lymph nodes. Okay, so early stage of silicosis, grossly the nodules are not palpable. It is seen in the upper lobes of the lung, and large areas of focal to confluent consolidation may be present. So microscopically, what do we see? We see that there is a chronic inflammation in the alveolar septa. The alveolar spaces are filled with amorphous material. Some of these alveoli show concentric laminated bodies. There's also presence of long needle-like crystalline spaces, which looks like cholesterol clefts. And these spaces contain bright fringent silica particles. The pleura is covered by fibrinous exudate. So there is fibrinous pleuritis. And as the disease progresses, it develops into chronic nodular silicosis. Now, chronic nodular silicosis, they are tiny collagenous nodules which are palpable like sand grains. Initially, these nodules are present in the upper lobes and in the hilar region, but they later extend throughout. Okay, there will be scar formation. Now, these tiny nodules may coalesce to form visible scars, and sometimes these are stony hard. The lung parenchyma between the scars is either compressed or emphysematous. And this may often lead to formation of a honeycomb lung. Okay. So what we are seeing here are presence of microscopic appearances of silicosis. So there will be chronic inflammation in the alveolar septa. The alveolar septa may be filled with amorphous material. Okay, and some of them can show concentric laminated bodies. Okay, so these are concentric laminated bodies and long needle-like crystalline spaces. Okay, and these spaces contain bifringent silica particles. So they can be, pleura can be covered by fibrinous exudate leading to fibrinous pleuritis. Okay, so this is a thickened pleura. These are areas of thickened pleura. So microscopically in chronic nodular silicosis, the nodules consist of concentric layer of hyalinized collagen, which is surrounded by dense collagenous capsule. And the pleura shows dense fibrous plaques. There can be adhesion and obliteration of the pleural cavity. So this is a pleural cavity. The pleura is thickened and the cavity is obliterated. Okay. So there are dense adhesions and there is fibrosis in the pleura. The cavity, the pleural cavity is obliterated. Space is obliterated. Then hilar lymph nodes. The hilar lymph nodes become scarred and they can show thin calcifications. Okay. And on X-ray, they appear as egg shell shadow. So clinically, they may be symptomless initially, but later on, they can have cough, they can have dyspnea on exertion, there will be chest pain, cyanosis, and pulmonary hypertension. Radiology shows presence of egg shell hilar calcification and progressive massive fibrosis. Okay, it also shows no storm appearance in the lung fields. Sometimes emphysematous bulla are present in the upper zone, and later on it may affect the lower zones as well. So what are the complications? Kaplan syndrome, as we have already discussed in coal workers pneumoconiosis. There can be chronic bronchitis, emphysema, cor pulmonale, and the patient is also predisposed to pulmonary tuberculosis. The third most important pneumoconiosis is asbestosis. Asbestosis is fibrosis of the lungs, which is caused by asbestos dust. Asbestos dust causes other diseases, which together with asbestosis is termed as asbestos-related diseases. Asbestos are silicates of varying silica, uh, and this silica is combined with bases such as magnesium, iron, calcium, sodium, and aluminium. Asbestos has a unique combination of several useful properties. Okay, that is why asbestos is used in sewage, in water conduits, flooring and roofing products, car components. Okay, so what are these unique combinations? It is acid, heat, and fire resistant. It is very light, ductile, and malleable, and it can withstand a lot of weight. And because of all these factors, asbestos is used in a variety of industries. Okay, now the asbestos, there are two main types of fibers in the asbestos. Okay, one is amphibole and the other is chrysolite. Now, chrysolite is a pure magnesium silicate. Okay. Now, amphiboles contain varying amount of other minerals such as iron and calcium. Okay. So, the commonest type of amphiboles are crocidolite, which is blue asbestos, amosite, which is brown asbestos, and others can be anthracite, tremolite, and actinolite. Okay. Now, all these fibers are straight and stiff fibers. Okay. They are less soluble and they are more pathogenic. Because these fibers are straight and stiff, it makes them more aerodynamic, aligning them along the flow. So they flow along with the inspired air and penetrate deep into the lungs. Okay. So amphiboles, because of being straight and stiff fibers and less soluble, they align themselves aerodynamically and they can penetrate into the deeper portions of the lung and they are more pathogenic. So, okay, these are the various types of fibers: chrysotile, tremolite, okay, crocidolite, okay, amosite, actinolite, and anthropylite. These are the various types of asbestos fibers. Now, these asbestos fibers, flooring and roofing, car components, and in mining. And it usually takes moderate to severe exposure for at least 10 years for the disease to occur. Now, amphibole fibers, as I've already told you, they are straight, stiff, okay? They can align themselves aerodynamically along the airflow and they flow along with the inspired air to the deeper portions into the lung. Okay? In contrast, the chrysotile, they are curled, flexible, and more soluble fibers. Okay, so they are curled, they are flexible, they are more soluble, and because they are curled, they get stuck in the upper respiratory passage, and from there they are removed by mucociliary action. And since they are more soluble than amphibole, and so they get removed easily, and therefore they are less pathogenic. Okay, than the other forms of asbestos fibers. So what is the pathogenesis of asbestos fibers? Now the pathogenesis can occur in two ways. Okay. Now the asbestos fibers act both as initiators as well as promoters of carcinogenesis. Okay. The fibers also contain trace metals like nickel and chromium, which can induce malignancy. Now, tobacco carcinogens and asbestos can act synergistically, potentiating the chance of malignancy. Asbestos fibers also suppress the natural killer cells which fail to recognize and destroy the malignant cells. This is the first mechanism of pathogenesis. The second mechanism is that the asbestos fibers which penetrate the lung are ingested by the alveolar macrophages and the interstitial macrophages. The macrophages then gets activated and these activated macrophages liberate cytokines fibronectin, platelet-derived growth factors, and insulin growth factors 1. So all these cytokines which are liberated by the macrophages induces fibrosis. So the asbestos fibers, which are amphiboal, are straight and stiff asbestos fibers. They orient themselves aerodynamically, align along the airflow, and penetrate into deeper portions of the lung. Here they are ingested by the alveolar and interstitial macrophages. The macrophages gets activated, they release cytokines, and these cytokines like fibronectin, platelet-derived growth factor, and insulin-like growth factor causes fibrosis. This is one pathway. The other pathway is that now they, along with tobacco, they can absorb tobacco carcinogens and release benzopyrene. Now this benzopyrene causes malignancies. Okay. They also contain trace metals like nickel and chromium, which can lead to malignancies. And asbestos fiber suppresses the natural killer cells, and these natural killer cells fails to recognize or destroy the malignant cells. Now, asbestosis can cause diffuse pulmonary interstitial fibrosis. Okay? There is a diffuse fibrosis of the interstitial tissue, and there will be presence of the asbestos bodies. Now, the fibrosis initially starts around the respiratory bronchioles and the alveolar ducts. These are the places where the asbestos commonly gets deposited. There will be fibrosis adjacent to the and the alveoli. Now, due to this fibrosis, the adjacent alveoli becomes dilated. That is, there will be compensatory dilatation, giving it a honeycomb appearance. And mixed in this fibrosis are numerous asbestos bodies. Now, what are these asbestos bodies? Okay. Now, asbestos bodies are clubbed or dumbbell-shaped golden brown bodies. Okay. Now, the core of the body has an asbestos fiber. Now, this asbestos fiber is coated by a glycoprotein in combination with hemosiderin. So, the core is formed by asbestos fiber, and this asbestos fiber is coated with glycoprotein and hemosiderin. And these asbestos bodies are also known as ferruginous bodies. Why they are called ferruginous bodies is because of the presence of hemosiderin also within them. And because of this hemosiderin, it gives them a golden brown and a beaded appearance. So how are these asbestos bodies formed? Okay. Now, after the asbestos fibers are engulfed by the macrophages, it acquires a coating of glycoprotein and hemosiderin. Okay. Now the fiber appears club-shaped and beaded. However, the core or the axial core of the asbestos. Now, how can we demonstrate these fibers? We can do asbestos body special stains. Stain by iron stain or pearl stain, which gives it a. So these are the ferruginous bodies or asbestos bodies, which are beaded bodies. They are club shaped. Okay. Basically, the core of these bodies are formed by the asbestos fiber. Okay, which appears as optically clear, and these are coated by a combination of glycoprotein and hemosiderin. And because of presence of this hemosiderin, it gives it a golden brown color. Then there can be pleural plaques. Okay, so one is diffuse pulmonary interstitial fibrosis. Second is formation of pleural plaques. Now, pleural plaques are well demarcated, pearly white, smooth, or nodular areas in the lung, in the pleura, and there is dense hyalinized fibrous tissue, and often there will be areas of calcification. There can be diffuse pleural fibrosis. So diffusely there will be pleural fibrosis, and it may lead to adhesions in the chest wall. So what is the basic difference between asbestosis and silicosis? So asbestosis is caused by asbestos fibers, inhalation of asbestos fibers. Silicosis is caused by inhalation of silica dust. Okay, it causes mechanical irritation. Silicosis can cause blockage of lymph nodes. There will be a diffuse fibrosis in asbestosis, whereas in silicosis there is a nodular fibrosis. Now, fibrosis is situated in the basal portion of the lungs, whereas in silica it is situated in the upper parts of the lung. So what are the complications? It can lead to emphysema. It can lead to empyema. It can lead to bronchiectasis, cor pulmonale, Kaplan's syndrome. Now, asbestos fibers can also induce malignancies like mesotheliomas, bronchogenic carcinomas, renal cell carcinomas, and lymphomas. Okay, so this is an X-ray which is showing diffuse areas of pulmonary interstitial fibrosis. So asbestos can cause thickening of the pleura, the hardened pleura, that is pleural plaques. It can cause diffuse pulmonary fibrosis. Okay, it can cause cancer of the pleural covering, which is known as mesothelioma, lung carcinomas. Okay, it can also cause renal cell carcinomas and lymphomas. So the other pneumoconiosis which are important are byssinosis. Okay, now byssinosis is due to inhalation of cotton fibers over a long time. The main hazards occur when handling the machines used for cleaning those plants of their impurities. Okay, so occupational exposure occurs in textile workers who work with cotton, hemp, flax, jute, or kapok. So clinically, these patients can have chronic cough, which is not productive. It can have progressive dyspnea, cyanosis, chest tightness. Okay, so these are cotton fibers which are produced in yarn manufacturing, linen manufacturing. So how do you diagnose this? History is important. X-ray findings is important, and it is a respiratory disease. So there will be a decrease in total lung capacity and vital capacity of the lung. How to prevent is primary prevention is the key to programs for dust control and proper dust control by exhaust ventilations. Bagasosis, it is caused by inhalation of bagasse or sugar dust after the sugar water has been pressed out. It was first reported in India in 1955. It has been shown to be due to thermophilic actinomycetes, and the name is thermoactinomycetes saccharine was suggested. So occupational exposure occurs in sugar places and where there is exposure to bagasse. Clinically, they can have fever, breathlessness, cough, hemoptysis, and X-ray suggests features of bronchitis in acute cases. Otherwise, X-ray will be normal. So disposal of cane, okay, dust control such as wet process, personal protective equipment, mask, respirators, mechanical filters or with oxygen, medical control, initially medical examination and critical medical checkup of the workers. And by keeping the moisture content above 20% and spraying bagasse 2% propionic acid, and which is a widely used fungicidal. So basically, we have to prevent the fungicidal infections. Berylliosis, this is due to exposure to beryllium, which is used in nuclear industries and in manufacturing of X-ray tubes and aircrafts. So biopsy of the lesion shows changes similar to sarcoidosis with non-casating granulomas and interstitial fibrosis. So shows presence of non-casating granulomas, same as that we see in sarcoidosis. Then coming on to last, which is the farmer's lung. Farmer's lungs occurs due to inhalation of moldy hay, okay, or grain dust. In grain dust or hay with a moisture content of over 30%, bacteria and fungi grow rapidly and causes a rise in temperature from 40 to 50 degrees Celsius. Okay, so the temperature rises around 40 to 50 degrees Celsius because of the rapid growth of bacteria and fungi. This heat encourages the growth of thermophily actinomycetes like Micropolyspora feni, which is the main cause of farmer's lung. So clinically, they have acute fever, cough, breathlessness, and complication is similar to other pneumoconiosis like cor pulmonale, pulmonary damage, pulmonary hypertension. Okay. So anything you want to ask? Now, asbestos body formation, basically these asbestos fibers are inhaled, okay, and they are straight and stiff fibers, okay. So because these fibers are straight and stiff fibers, okay, they get aerodynamically arranged and align themselves along the airflow, okay. Now these fibers get deposited in the alveolar ducts, okay, and there will be fibrosis in the alveoli, and these asbestos fibers get coated with hemosiderin. After they are engulfed by the macrophages, they get coated with hemosiderin and glycoprotein. Okay, and so they appear as club shaped and beaded. So they are known as asbestos bodies. Okay, and since the center of these asbestos bodies is formed by asbestos fibers, so they appear optically clear. Now, this eggshell calcification in silicosis is because the hilar lymph nodes becomes involved and they get scarred. Okay, and once these hilar lymph nodes get scarred, they can also show calcification. Okay, and this calcification appears as eggshell. TB risk is not only associated with silicosis, but it is also associated with coal workers pneumoconiosis, okay, any pneumoconiosis.